Welcome everyone. It's great to see you joining us here on a Thursday afternoon for this webinar, How Your Independent Agency Can Land Major Clients Without Pitching. My name's Darren Woolley. I'm the CEO of Trinity P3, and I want to thank you for joining us. Before we get into the session, I just want to give a little bit of background here. There has been quite a lot of talk in the marketplace, and it's a trend that we've noticed for more than 12 months. It's not a COVID trend. It actually started before COVID, but it's certainly accelerated, and that is that there is an increased number of clients that are certainly considering independent agencies for all sorts of work. And especially larger clients, whereas traditionally those larger clients would have been looking for larger agencies, they're now very open and considering independent agencies. In response to that trend, we have actively gone out into the marketplace and started to partner with some of the independent agency bodies, such as the IMAA, to make sure that we truly represent the broader industry, that we're not just picking up the more vocal or the more high profile agencies, but that we're able to truly represent all the agencies in the marketplace. Now, obviously, as part of that, we need to know who you are. And so I want to first of all thank everyone that is on this webinar that has actually filled out a profile on our agency register. I have to tell you, there's over 3,500 companies currently in our agency register. So you can imagine, one, it's an incredibly rich source, but from our perspective, it means that we have up-to-date information about your agency so that we can better represent you when we're talking with clients. Having said that, I think you also realize that while there's a lot of pitching going on, Trinity P3 only really gets a relative handful of those pitches. Even in a good year, we would get around 30 pitches in 1 year. In a not so good year, that could drop down to 20 or less. And so I think you can see just by the numbers, relying on us to be able to put everyone on a pitch. Because first of all, our consideration is we would look for recommending between 8 and 12 for consideration, but then ultimately 6 are usually invited to participate in the first stage of a pitch process. The numbers just don't stack up. With 3,500 or more agencies on our database, it means that in any year, it could be highly unlikely that, well, in fact, impossible for every agency to get involved in a pitch. The other thing is that certainly the pitches that we do get, because the clients would be paying for our services, are inclined to be the larger pitches. And while we are actively putting up for consideration suitable independent agencies as part of the mix, they will also be inclined to be larger independent agencies that are able to cope with the size of the client's requirements. So I think I'm setting up, without hopefully depressing everyone, that while it is an opportunity and we do really value the agencies for participating in it, there has to be better ways for agencies to be able to win major clients without pitching. And that's what we're here for today. The other thing is, and anyone that follows our blog, the articles on our website, will see that sometimes there are also circumstances which work against agencies, and especially the smaller agencies, in that global pitchers are inclined to want to have global representation. Not always, but they're inclined to. And in fact, we've also seen situations which I've written about where procurement and their processes for minimizing risk will often eliminate or be counter to the best interests of their own marketers, because they will often eliminate smaller independent agencies from their process. So how do you go about building and winning major clients as clients for your independent agency? And that's what we're here to talk about. Now, a little bit of housekeeping before we get into it. First of all, we've started at 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Summer Time. We will be finishing at 5 p.m. sharp. To ask questions, please use the Q&A function, and you can ask questions anonymously. We will be recording this for future use, and in fact, it will be on our website under Trinity P3/webinars within the next 24 hours. Now to our panelists and speakers today. I have great pleasure in again introducing the agency accelerators, and we have Susan Werkner and Peter Applebaum, who have been with us for 2 previous webinars and have come back today to really discuss the options available to you. And I would say to everyone before, please stay to the end, and especially please stay and participate in the Q&A. But after the Q&A, there's going to be an offer from the agency accelerators for all the agencies on this webinar that I think you should stay for, because it's a terrific deal. Now, welcome Peter and Susan.
Thank you very much, Darren, and welcome everyone. We've got a fantastic number of people joining us this afternoon. So Susan and I are very excited to speak with you. As Darren mentioned, this is the 3rd time we've been on a webinar with Trinity P3. And this is something that's very, very close to our heart, because a lot of having run independent agencies 15 to 20 years ourselves and worked for other independent agencies prior to that, we're now excited to be working with many independent agencies and helping them, I guess, with the benefit of the experience that we have, the wins, the losses. We know all the potholes, we've fallen into them over the time. But one thing, to give you a little bit of a, I guess, as Darren's already given you a bit of a reality check, next slide please, about what the odds are for independent agencies. The reality is 84% of clients have picked a winner before an agency pitch begins. And I'm sure most of the people on this webinar today have actually participated in many pitches, as we have, won some, lost some. But the sobering reality is that according to another stat, there's 43% on average, agencies win pitches 43% of the time. Now, the better ones can go up to 85%. But what is incontrovertible and completely consistent is that on average, agencies spend collectively about 150 hours per pitch and around $15,000 to $25,000. And I'm sure Darren would probably have far greater understanding of what the specific figures are for some of the bigger pitches. I'm sure it's far greater than that. But for an independent agency, doing that 5, 10, 20 times a year can be an incredibly expensive roll of the dice. Now, obviously, if you're one of the 16% who gets the money, fabulous. But I guess where we're coming from is we're on this webinar today, next slide please, to help you to show that there is an alternative to pitching. And in fact, we have a lot of experience in this regard. Next slide, please, because these are the sorts of clients, and just that's only a small snapshot of the sorts of clients, independent agencies that have been landed without pitching. Now, I know that could be surprising to quite a few people, but if you look at some of the organizations here, there, as Darren briefly mentioned, procurement, which is the devil's work when it comes to agencies, but their job, as you know, in larger organizations is to standardize and formalize all pitches to the organization. And that really does, in a way, it doesn't just trample creativity, but it also tramples chemistry, if you will. Their procurement's job is not to help independent agencies, if you will. So we want to come to you with specific strategies and present some granularity as to what independent agencies can do today. So our focus is to give you a structure, a strategy, and some specific steps you can take when you go to the office tomorrow to help you put you in the best possible position to potentially win your own corporate clients and without pitching. So what we've done, next slide, please. We've created a no pitching acronym, and it really is 10 steps to winning without pitching. And one, not surprisingly, builds on the other to really get you into a position where you are infinitely better placed to win pitches, to win business without pitching. The stark reality that we found is less than 10% of agencies have an integrated ongoing business development program in place. So that means 90% of agencies are operating opportunistically, if you will. Someone they used to work with, they went to a conference and met somebody, they made a phone call on the off chance that someone's at the right time in the right place. And that works. We don't in any way deny that that can be effective. But what we're suggesting that there is a better way of putting you in a position where you can win the sorts of clients that we saw in that previous slide and many more in addition. So if we could then go through to the first slide, next slide, please, Darren, I'll hand you over to Susan. If we can go just to the conversation. So if we can reduce that, stop sharing. There you go. Susan, you're on mute.
All right, thank you, Peter. And thanks, Darren. So as we said, our 10 steps. What's one of the first steps that's most important for an agency? I guess all of you have been, it looks like, in business for a while, so you would know this, but it's so important to drill down and have a niche. Now, it can sound very easy to have a niche, but it's actually very hard. So I think it's important to actually not just be a full service agencies. And as Peter rightly mentioned, there are thousands of digital agencies and service businesses. So you have massive amount of competitors. So if you are going to offer all services to all people, you're going to find it very hard to win those clients without pitching. So one of the facts that are the most important is really, we have a saying, we say, be an inch wide and a mile deep, which means you can build a niche in a specialist area or a specialist industry that you can actually highlight and present your strengths and literally beat out competitors. So that's one of the key things that's really important. The industry can be anything. You could have either a service focus, as you know, some agencies might have an SEO or social media focus, others could be just on websites, or you could have a service business. Just for example, I started my business 15 years ago, and it was a digital marketing company. Now I thought, I don't want to be just a digital marketing company servicing listed companies, because I would be all things to all people. So instead I focused on the problem area. There was an area within the investor relations area that I saw a problem in. There was a niche, and I developed a piece of software that actually solved that problem for the listed corporates. So when I went into those corporate clients, I was not needing to pitch. Why? Because they saw me as someone who had something different and not competitive to other agencies to offer. So that's really important, I guess, is the niche. Another aspect is niching means you can dominate the market. The more you can influence, the more you can generate valuable content in that market around your niche. You are going to be the go-to person for those companies as well to reach out to. And finally, we have another example, someone called Paul Denny, which you may or may not have heard of. Paul Denny had a conveyancing business many years ago. This was pre-internet. And he decided his niche was, we do conveyancing and we are going to do conveyancing very well. And that's it. So that was the only niche that he focused on. And he ended up being the #1 conveyancing company in Australia, just with that one small aspect, to be the #1 in conveyancing, and that's it. So niche allows you to really focus on your opportunities. So we come to opportunity. The opportunities are different depending on your niche. So definitely targeting your corporate clients based on the opportunities that you see in your niche. If you're niching into the automotive industry, what targets can you have in the automotive industry? What pain points do those clients have? What are the opportunities? Is there, for example, sometimes these agencies find that if they're changing their media buying agency, they might end up changing their creative agency, for example. We also have, also it's good to be lateral in the type of way you look for opportunities within corporates and within business development. Very important to have long-term relationships with clients. So let's say you don't win a client the first time, or you've made a contact through, let's say, a conference, or you've been to an event where you've met someone. Keep in touch with them. If you can keep in touch with them, we actually had a client that we met probably 3 years before we started working with them. We kept in contact with them over those 3 years. They ended up moving to two different larger corporates. They ended up spending, literally $500,000 with us in the first year of working with us, and it just grew from there. So I think looking at opportunities in a lateral way, looking through, making sure that you have your Google alerts for your industry, making sure that you are sharing content that you need on LinkedIn, all of these gives you the opportunity to reach out to those clients that might need you. And then next one is positioning. Now, positioning is very important because it's probably the hardest thing, because as creative people and as service business owners, we don't like to do standardized things. We like to do things that are more creative and different. So I think the most important for positioning is really asking yourself, what business are you in? And when you focus on what business you're in, you can really position yourself as an expert and an advisor to the clients that you want to work with. Now that does two things for you. So number one, it means that you can actually be seen as the go-to person, the advisor, which means that you can sell your service much better to that niche client and opportunity. But secondly, you also can actually charge a premium for your services. So those two are so important in terms of positioning your agency. So I think another important thing is, for example, when you look at positioning, as I said, it's very easy for us to look at our clients and provide client work and look at their business as an outsider. But when you actually go into the client, you can actually see where they're stuck in a very narrow view of their world. The same with agencies. You need to dig deep to find your positioning. So we can give you some examples. So, for example, one of our clients is in fact a private investigator. So after working with us for a while, we really wanted to help hone in where is there an opportunity for the agency to differentiate itself from all the other private investigation firms. So we came up with a positioning line which actually definitely meets the needs of her audience, is helping lawyers win cases. Now, she has already had 4 coffee meetings from LinkedIn, reaching out on LinkedIn with that positioning statement after she put it up on her LinkedIn profile, because that was the pain point that the lawyers needed. Another one is Little Village Creative. Their tagline, which is very creative, is the creative chameleons. Again, it gives them a positioning line on which to really influence and, I guess, push forward in terms of who they're going to be with their corporate clients and what communications and strategies they will actually leverage with their assets moving forward. Another one is Communicado. We start where other agencies stop. So again, an intriguing positioning line, if it's done in a strategic way, really can help differentiate and position your agency. And hopefully the idea is to actually blow your competitors out of the water. So that's very important, those first 3. Peter?
Okay, the next one is investigate. What have your competitors ignored? What contacts have joined an organization that you may have had in previous companies? There may be someone new. I always find if you find out who has just joined an organization, particularly if they're not from your state, from your city, they often don't have the contacts in place that many of those people who've been in the same job, in the same country or the same city for many others have. So also find out what are the markets they're looking to enter. Obviously, you can create a Google alert for each of the companies that you're looking to work with, for the industries you want to work for. And you can obviously create daily alerts on Sales Navigator, which is the paid version of LinkedIn, which we highly recommend you do. Basically, LinkedIn used to have all the good stuff was for free, and then they were purchased several years ago, and all the good stuff's now been rationed off to Sales Navigator. But Sales Navigator is an incredibly powerful thing. We want to take valuable market intelligence to your prospects. Something that we've done a lot of is actually find out things. Let's say that you're dealing with a lotteries company. Let's say you do some investigation of what is the National Lottery Board in Finland doing. Invariably, these clients are so myopic and so focused in their little world and their little niche, they probably don't know what other organizations are doing around the world. So the more you investigate what is happening in the market you're looking to dominate, the more powerful you are and the more relevant you are to your market. One of our clients in lockdown in Melbourne was so diligent in finding out what the opportunities were along these lines we're talking about, that recently she's won 2 major clients and 3 smaller clients. So all without pitching. So it just shows that it's like, this works. The old story is keep showing up, and that's so important. The next one, trust. Obviously, given the sorts of people we're speaking to in larger organizations, they're not going to be wild-eyed risk takers. They're certainly cautious and risk averse. So if you can allay their concerns and be the safest pair of hands when it comes to the needs they have, it's going to really help you when it comes to, I guess, moving forward and saying, look, you can pitch this out, but you're taking a risk. So if you're the expert in fintech or in sports marketing or in fashion, it's going to be very hard for them to ignore you. Yes, obviously, we're talking about marketing. We're talking about new business. There's never going to be an absolute, but we're talking about putting yourself in the best possible position to take advantage of any opportunities you may have. Web Profits is a big agency in the US, and they actually used this strategy. They wanted to work in fintech, and they identified a company called Kabbage, which is a big fintech company in the US. And they created a 12,000 word ebook with an accompanying video. And they basically said, helping to identify Kabbage's opportunities, the market threats, all the sorts of things they can do moving forward. And as a result of sending that out to Kabbage, but also to several of their competitors, they managed to get $600,000 worth of revenue in the first year alone from those companies that they got from. So it really does show that if you become the trusted advisor rather than just another agency, it really makes a difference, because you're dealing, particularly if you're dealing with corporate clients who are who have a high profile, they're jaundiced, they're jaded, they're getting hit on all the time. We've had clients say to us, oh, you're the 10th agency that's called me today. Well, there are ways and means, particularly now with digital communications, that you can differentiate yourself. Susan?
Thanks, Peter. So consistent conversations, that's another really key thing. So what we mean by that is many times you might approach a client, you might meet with them, it might be opportunistic, as we say. Some are opportunistic. You've been to a conference, you've been to a dinner party, or you've been to let's say you've been elsewhere, like a webinar, etc. You've seen someone, met someone even online. Being consistent about following up with the conversation with them is really important, because most times you don't follow up. You might meet with someone and say, yes, I'll put them into their email database, and they'll sit there for 3 months or 6 months. By the time you contact them, they'll have forgotten who you are. So being very consistent on creating those conversations and making sure you're following up in a timely way with them. And as we said before, in a value fashion. So providing value to them, whether it's an article that you know it's going to be of interest, whether it's an opportunity that you know they're going to be interested in, all of these will build up your ability to create as many connections as possible to make sure your pipeline is full as you go forward. So, and one of the biggest agency mistakes we find working with our clients and with service businesses too, we speak about ourselves too much. You know, speaking about ourselves and offering only our own point of view and pushing our own products and services and how great we are and how many awards we've won, it's all fantastic. Look, we love it, and I think that's accolades that we should definitely boast about. But at the end of the day, you have to remember, when you're in conversation with the clients, especially if they're corporate clients, they're in a large organization, heavy with politics, you don't know what is going on behind the scenes. They only care about themselves. You always have to back self-interest, as they say. And with corporates, it's even more so. So just remember, if you want to create conversations with clients, make sure that every aspect of your communications is focused on them. Bring them value. Make sure your website is actually presenting the problem and niche that you're offering, so that when they jump onto your website, they can see, number one, what you're offering. Number two, yes, they want to see some of your work, absolutely. And thirdly, make it easy for them to contact you. Give them the next step. Call us now. So those are really important to generate those consistent conversations, is having them around the client, conversing about what matters to them. What's their strategy? What are they asking them? What are your problems? What are the issues you'd like to grapple with over the next, or solve over the next 6 to 12 months in terms of your strategy? You know, are competitors beating you? Do you have a new product launch? that you're not sure how you should go about. So I think creating that ongoing conversation with contacts is vital, and focusing, as we said, on their problems. So I think that's something where I think if you also have a process, this is another part of conversation, I guess, is really, if you have a process of how you want to go about talking to a client, how do you go about doing creative for them if you're a creative agency? You should have a process. And the reason I say this, you might say, well, process, of course we have processes. But no, this is a process where you allow yourself to control the client rather than the other way around. Too many times the clients control us. The clients would tell us, we are going through an RFP or a pitch, or they might not have either of those, and they give you a brief, let's say, even out of the blue. It may not be a pitch, it might be out of the blue, a brief. But it might be very short, it might be even a 15-minute conversation asking you for something. The most important thing is for you to keep control of that relationship, is to have a process for asking them about their strategy and really delving into what are their needs, what are their objectives, and how can we devise a strategy that's going to meet their needs with the client. So I think that's another really important thing about conversations, is controlling the conversation with the client. Have a process that you're going to, in fact, use with the client, and they will actually reward you for it, because someone has to take control in a conversation. It should really be you. You are the expert. Just like, I know the analogy has been said many times before, but it's like a doctor. You know, if you go to the doctor doesn't give you a whole ream of, look at my wards on the wall. Yes, they have them up there, of course. Wards on the wall, etc. They don't go through all the patients they have saved. They don't tell you how many operations they've done. There is an inferred professionalism when you walk into their office that they are the experts. That's how we have to present when we go to corporate clients as well. We are the experts, we have a process, and we need to step them through our process, not the other way around. So the next most important thing is, again, it is related to conversations. It's hearing your clients, really hearing them. Too often we go in, we jump into clients. We're so excited to actually present, and they want us to go in and talk with them. And we have it in our mind, we're thinking, I'm not sure which of our clients we should present. We've done some amazing work a year ago. We should present the award that we won and the TV campaign that we have, or whatever case study that you've already prepared. But they might not be interested in that. The client might actually have a totally different need than what you're actually thinking. So it's so important to sit down with the clients when you're having conversations with them, and don't just have a presentation ready of what they can probably find on your website anyway. Listen to them, really hear what are they actually saying, and sometimes what they say is not what they really mean. And I think more importantly, when you are listening to them and you're responding in a way where they see that you hear them and you can understand where they're actually coming from, what their problems are, you will build rapport and basically the rapport and the chemistry. Because I think there was, as we said before, I think it's something like 84% or over 80% of clients will work with others who they have chemistry with. So building that conversation, hearing what they're saying, and really moving the conversation forward in that way is going to get you a long way towards winning that client's work and their trust. Peter?
Thank you, Susan. Okay, next one is influence, which of course is a byproduct of trust. And we always say to our clients, we've got a couple of clients on this webinar, and they probably hear it ad nauseum, add value consistently. And the reason we say that is when you add value consistently, you're differentiating yourself from, round figure 99% of people out there. All of us get hit on every day by people on LinkedIn or via email saying, we do this, we do that. Your prospects don't care what you do. They care about themselves, which is, I think, hopefully, which is what you've taken away from what we're talking about here. But being an agent of influence doesn't happen by chance. You need to consistently demonstrate you're a safe bet. You're an industry leader with your content, conference presentations, podcasts, books. Our esteemed host, Darren Woolley, he's not there by mistake. He is a very, very active, high value content marketer, and he's consistently doing all of those things. He has a podcast, he has books, presentations. He is a trusted influencer within the advertising of the agency and marketing industry because he consistently shows up and adds value. And I think that when it comes to avoiding pitches, giving you an example, one of our contacts we had was with Pfizer Consumer Healthcare, and we met with their digital marketing manager, and he wasn't that interested. He said, "Okay, well, why don't you come away and give us some ideas," which is it's slightly in conflict with what the next point we're about to make. But anyway, we did. But then all of a sudden, he resigned. The marketing director called me up in a panic and said, "Can you come and see us? We saw what you did. We get a lot of other people speaking to us, but we see your content. We see the fact that you've written a book. We see a whole lot of reasons to work with you. Can you come in?" That particular phone call and that particular conversation turned into hundreds of thousands of dollars as a result. Now, that was opportunistic, but it was also very strategic because I had consistently created a profile for my agency and we consistently shown up. So it really doesn't get much more complicated than that. And I think the big mistake a lot of agencies make, and realistically, you might be sitting there saying, "I know a lot of this stuff," but I put back to you, are you doing a lot of this stuff? And are you doing it in a consistent way? We had I guess a webinar with one of our clients. They've got 270 employees. And it was a pretty exhausting affair, as you'd imagine, with so many people. And someone said, what is the ultimate secret of success? And I said, consistency. And you guys we've got some very successful agency people and service people, owners on this webinar. So you know this stuff, but it's just a question of, are you actually doing it? Are you demonstrating to the market that you are the go-to people that they can trust and that you have the influence to actually help them to solve their problems? Because if you don't, you're just like everybody else. As I say, a bit of a contrast to what I've said is to don't give away your IP for free. And that is for N, which is the second last point, and that is to negotiate terms. When we say give away IP, I mean, in a way, we're giving away just a small bit of our IP here today, but you have to give to get. And it's like, we have to say, okay, we are the people that can help you to solve your problem. So you have to say, okay, here is a little bit of information. But I guess all of us have horror stories who've been involved with pitches, who've put forward ideas, even proactively to some clients, who've stolen ideas or who've kind of taken those ideas and tweaked them anyway. And all we're left with is no money because they've given it to their existing agency or to one of their friends, and basically a sour taste in our mouth. So it's like, what we're saying is be very, very diligent when it comes to asking for the sale and also invoicing. My team always laughs at me because I said you have to be an aggressive invoicer. I think it's very important to be an aggressive invoicer. Some people get uncomfortable about the money thing. I think the money thing is the easiest thing in the world to talk about. Basically, by following the steps we're talking about here, you are bringing a huge amount to the table. And I think this is one of the ways we work with our clients, is to help them with their mindset and to help them to recognize that they are worthy and they can sit at the table with the big boys. And quite frankly, the big boys need them. And I think this is something that Darren often talks about. And I think another point to always remember that I heard many years ago, and I thought is very smart, is that a service is only valued in direct proportion to how much you pay for it. So if you get something for free, that's how much you value it, not very much. And the final point is to generate partnerships, become embedded in the organization. Once you become the go-to resource for PR, for digital marketing, for legal advice, for private investigations, you're getting all these various opportunities because you can go to their conferences, you form relationships, you walk the hallways, and you speak to various people. And it's always good not just to have one major contact in an organization. Get internal referrals from one person who is happy with the service you're providing to another person. One of our biggest clients ever came about as a result of an internal referral from a large organization. And we had done just a small $15,000 project for this particular client and said, look, I'd really like to work with this division, another division. Would you mind actually referring us on? Which he did. And that other division turned out to generated millions and millions of dollars for us over many years. So it's just incredible. You never know how one conversation and one request can make all the difference. And again, that's the big mistake that a lot of agencies make. They're too shy. They don't ask. They They feel it in a way that they're strategists, they're creative people, this is all beneath them. Look at it the other way. Let's turn it around. Agencies, so our clients need us. They need us to take opportunities to them and identify ways that they can better do their business and solve all their needs. So I guess the key point there is that one project can turn into multiple engagements with multiple divisions and people across that organization. So if, Darren, we can go back to the slide just to summarize the 10 steps, please.
Yep.
Susan?
Thank you, Peter. So yes, to summarize our 10 steps to winning without pitching, I guess the building blocks are there, which are, as you see, as we've gone through, really having that niche is so important. I think that's critical. And I think we really have put these steps together with some thought. So these are not just random pieces of a puzzle. We actually have put them together in a way that builds on a strategy that we know will work to get you away from pitching for business. Because pitching, as we said earlier, it's exciting. We love it. There's nothing more exciting than a pitch. We have been on a number of pitches. So it can be very exciting. It can be exhausting. And unfortunately, more often than not, you may not be the lead agency and win it. So you have spent a lot of time exciting your team and pitching without winning the business. So following just these, this is really just 10 steps, which seem simple, but they're actually quite hard to actually implement within the agency. So picking your opportunity, where is the market that you want to go after? What is the best opportunity based on your firm's skill sets? What are your strengths for your firm? Then really positioning yourself. A positioning tagline might seem very simplistic, but it's very powerful because you can then use that across the whole strategic communication that you do, whether it's LinkedIn, other social media platforms, your website, or public relations, across all of the different media that you will use to make yourself known. That positioning can be a great touchstone on which you can build your agency's profile. And investigating, as we said before, investigate where you need to go. What our competitors are doing? What are others doing? Obviously, stay on the clients, keep your eye on the clients, but you still need to investigate what market you're working in and how you can differentiate yourself. And I guess if you investigate enough with the clients and you know what their problems are to solve and you become their trusted advisor, then that trust is built up. The trust that leads to those consistent conversations where you're not necessarily presenting to them, you're just conversing, you're developing a rapport and a chemistry with those clients. And another thing we would mention is definitely have more than one client in a large corporate. Don't just work with one client. Make sure that you branch out like an octopus and have someone in many departments in that organization who are champions of yours, because that one client may leave. You don't want to be stuck with just one client if you're working with larger corporates. And then hearing what they're really saying is very important. Make sure that you hear them and listen to them. You're not busy thinking about what you're going to be telling them. That's also really critical because that leads to influence. Once you understand what their real needs are and their real problems are, you can then influence them with the type of content you provide, the type of conversations. And also, as we said lastly, negotiate terms. So you need to be in control. You need to negotiate the terms on how you want to work with that client. And if that client is not right for you, because winning a big client, let's say, everyone loves the thought of winning a big corporate client, and it is fantastic. But that changes the whole agency structure. That could be a big change to your agency if you are only small and have not dealt with a large corporate before. So you need to make sure you're ready and set up for that type of thing. So I think you need to negotiate based on what you know you can deliver successfully and build trust on that project or larger project you have with them. And once you build that trust, once you have that project going with the client, whether it's a large one or a smaller one, that's where you truly develop those partnerships that can then last for years, many times for years. Some of our clients we have had for over a decade. So that's the way to really develop the non-pitching business framework for your company. Thank you, Darren. So how are you going to do these 10 building blocks? It's not easy, but you can. Obviously, your option one is to hire a senior business development person or team, and definitely agencies have done that, and that can be successful. If you pick the right people, that can be quite successful. So it's certainly an option for you. But you do need to pick, like with any employee in your organization, you have to pick carefully. And I guess business development is a more tricky hire. The reason being, they have to do a number of things. They have to be both strategic, they have to be personable, they have to have the emotional IQ that they need, and they have to understand what you're offering and really be able to sell that in a positive, non-pushy way to your corporate, so as an advisor, really. So that is an option, hiring a senior business development person or team. Next slide, please. So option 2 is what most agencies do, is do it yourself. So doing it yourself, it's absolutely possible. You can do it yourself. But as you know, we all of us who are running our own businesses know that we wear so many different hats. It can be really frustrating, and it can be very tiring putting all the hours in to really doing it all yourself. So that's number 2. Then we have the third option, option 3, which is working with experienced and successful senior executives who have built up their own agencies. They've already achieved the type of success that you yourself would like to achieve. So that is the third option for you, to build the agency that you want and the business you want. Thank you, Darren.
Okay, well, look, that's been terrific. Let's take some Q&A. There was just the point made by Tam. Peter referred to Web Profits as a US company. It's actually an Australian company that is present in the US, but it's great that that the perception is that they're a US company.
Well, there you go. And apologies for that. We're actually speaking to Tammy next week, so we can talk about that in greater detail.
Okay. Look, I have a question for you guys, which is, what do you think it is that is driving major advertisers to actually consider the smaller independents? You know, because traditionally, you know, people were saying, oh yes, big client, big agency, but in actual fact, we're noticing a lot of independent agencies that are engaging and picking up business from these big clients.
Well, I guess the three top line things that I would say is that independent agencies tend to be better, faster, cheaper than the bigger agency groups, and they also have, I guess, there's this intangible that is, there's a passion, because you can't just cruise on a big international agency's reputation. You've got to be in the trenches, and you've got to be doing a lot of the things that we're talking about here. And I think that's why the larger organizations, the larger clients, are looking at this and saying, well, actually, you know what? All we care about is the result. We don't care about whether we're working for a big organization. We just want the result. Now, some do. Some want to work with the large guys, and that's fine. And that's what we're saying to the independent agencies. It is the most incredibly exciting time. And I think COVID has, as we know, caused a rethink of so many different ways of doing business. I mean, here I am, as you can see, I'm not exactly at global headquarters here. It's pretty clearly a working from home. And people are fine with that as long as they get the outcome.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is that, do you think the world has got smaller in a way because we're hearing of independents picking up projects from all around the world, not just in Australia?
Yes, I think so. I think definitely. I mean, I think one of our clients, just to that point, Darren, she was in lockdown in Melbourne and she won 2 clients overseas. So that's amazing. You know, what an achievement. So yes, I think the world is definitely flat. I think that COVID, if it has done nothing else, it's accelerated digital transformation for everyone. Whether you're an agency, a service business, or a large corporate, I think you realize that you actually don't physically need to have someone sitting in the office to get work done. So I think having a diverse team, having a team that's around the world, which has been happening for a long time now, to use obviously coders or accountants with bookkeepers, etc. overseas. So I think definitely there's a trend to using overseas. And I guess I do want to add one other thing to your previous question, if I may, Darren.
Sure.
Is another reason why I think the corporates are looking more at the independent agencies. It's something Martin Sorrell was actually online not long ago. He was saying that he thought the large holding companies are now gobbling up other smaller agencies because they don't have necessarily the niche digital strength that they need to have a comprehensive offering. So they are often are looking out and purchasing Droga 5 or the Monkeys or the other agencies that have specialized and really got a specialty and have a great client base. They're being bought up by the holding companies. But Martin Sorrell's gripe was saying he thinks it's a bad trend because what happens, clients don't like it. It's great for the big agencies if you're WPP or Y&R, etc. But the clients don't like it because they're swallowed up into this huge organization and they might have a change of creatives. They might have to go through more bureaucracy with the larger companies. So I think that's another major reason there's been a shift over the last few years to these corporates realizing, well, we don't want to be, we've got enough bureaucracy in-house. We don't need to have bureaucracy in our agency. And that's another reason why it's a great time for independent agencies.
And I think the big mistake, sorry, Darren, if I could add to the question.
Well, we've got quite a lot of questions though.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Briefly, something as we mentioned in the conversation is that agencies are really bad when it comes to focusing on the needs of clients. And now I know I'm going to have all the participants saying, what the hell are you talking about? But the proof is in the pudding. If you look at their website, if you look at their LinkedIn profiles, it's all talking about us, what we do, how wonderful we are, and what awards we've won. Focus on the client.
So how niche is too niche for many agencies? Going too small in terms of proposition product is not sustainable. Is that true?
Well, I think you have to do, that's why I think it's very important that you have a very commercial hat on when you do your niche and your positioning. Because with a commercial hat, you can actually estimate is there enough work for you in that niche. So for example, if you are going to be, let's say it's just SEO, just search engine optimization, that is all you're going to do, a very niche but important aspect for websites. Well, there's a company called OMG. They have now, I think, how many, Peter? 100 employees?
100 plus.
100 plus employees. All they do is search engine optimization. So I guess the key is if you can pick either a service or an industry and have a bundle of services that meet the need, meet that problem, then yes, you can afford to be as niche as you want. But yes, you do have to look at the commercial realities when you're picking your niche.
It is one of the problems with some agencies wanting to be everything to everyone and casting it so wide that they end up not known for anything.
Yep.
I'll just go on. Do you have any tips for how to find a proposition that resonates with the market?
I think it's a simple question with no simple answer. It comes down to, I guess, one of the steps we talked about is really investigate and drill down. It's finding out what the market wants. This all sounds like marketing 101, but it's just astounding how so few agencies, independent agencies in particular, and majors for that matter, really do this. There's almost like this excitement about saying we're full service. And I respect that, and there's work there, and you don't want to miss out on this, that, and the other. But I guess when it comes to finding that out, there are so many more resources available to the agency owner and manager than there were even 10, 15, 20 years ago. So to find out exactly what the market needs. And as we always say, it's like one of the best ways of finding that is simply asking a good cross-section. If you can ask 30 people that you want to work with, and I know that's easier said than done, often these people are hard to contact, but if you in some way can speak to 30 different people as to what they're looking for and what they're not getting, that can help you enormously.
And a final question, what are the most common pitfalls for indies with procurement officers?
I guess Susan's going to say this is my question because I've had a lot of experience, Darren, as you know, with our wonderful friends, our procurement managers. Look, I think it's the same with any agency or organization. It's being lumped in with everyone else. The procurement officer wants to have likes with likes. And I've had some great relationships over the years with procurement managers. And I think the key and consistent lesson that I was given by several of those people is come to us with something unique. Now, again, I know that contravenes one of the building blocks, which is don't give away your IP. But if you want to stand out, and she actually, I remember one of them saying in particular, just ask something, just focus on something you're passionate about, a brand or an opportunity or a market, and develop an approach from there. And there you can take it from there. No guarantees, but you just get away around the procurement manager, if you will, is to really go unique.
Okay. Certainly, I published a article recently about how procurement often gets in the way of independent agencies because of a cookie cutter approach to financial risk. And I had quite a lot of procurement people, so interestingly, from Europe and the Middle East, saying that in fact it's totally different. That one of the things procurement want to do is get diversity in their supply chain. Now, when you say diversity, people immediately think of cultural and gender and the various other ways that we measure diversity or talk about diversity. But they were also talking about the need to have the supply chain quite diverse. You know, one of the things that's come out of the COVID pandemic is that in some areas, a local supply chain is better. In others, accessing a global supply chain or best globally is also better. So, you know, I think rather than positioning procurement as just the bad guy, you should also go into the conversation thinking that there's opportunities there for, if you talk into procurement about what you bring and the value, they're definitely open to that. Unless, of course, they're incentivized by savings, in which case all you're going to do is.
Like you got to pick your mark, Darren. And I guess as always, it is a strategic numbers game, as we always say to our clients.
Yeah. Now, look. So what I want to do now is just to go on to Peter and Susan. You have an offer.
We do, Darren. We do have an offer. We're very excited. Huh? We're very excited for it. Special Trinity P3 offer for you, Darren, because you are the influencer par excellence. So for the next 14 days only, we're going to offer a free, no obligation 30-minute strategy session with Peter and I. So we think that's
great, because we've got a number of people that ask questions that we didn't get to. So maybe they could
love to answer them. Well, we're happy on that 30 minutes. You can ask us any specific question and we'd be more than happy to share our experience with you. So yes, so we're happy to do that. Next slide, please, Darren.
Yep.
All right, so what's the investment? We also have a special offer in terms of if you do want to work with us, and if we feel it's a good fit for both of us, which is very important, as we've said before. The investment is, normally we provide a lifetime access to our business development program, which is really pouring over 20 years of business development experience into a very practical and strategic program that you can embed into your agency or your service business as a business in a box. And we also provide weekly support for you and mentoring. So the one-off investment is $9,800, but for the next 14 days to the 3rd of December, we are actually offering that for $7,800. So that's an offer that we really want to offer the Trinity P3 webinar candidates or participants today.
Fantastic.
Next slide, please, Darren. So if you'd like to sign up or book a free strategy session with Peter and I, these are the two ways you can contact us. Either go to theagencyAccelerators.com/Trinity-P3/ or email us at success@theagencyAccelerators.com, and we would love to take your strategy session with you. So thank you all very much for the webinar, for being on our webinar.
So I'll be sending out a email tomorrow with a link to the recording, and I'll include those the URL and the email in that. So for everyone that didn't get it down now, you'll be getting an email tomorrow. Okay, Look, as I said, thank you both very much for your participating and contributing, and for the terrific offer that you're putting forward to everyone that's participated today. Recordings of this workshop will be available soon. You'll get an email tomorrow, but it'll also, all of our webinars are available at trinityp3.com/webinars. If you haven't already, please subscribe at trinityp3.com/subscribe, because we have a whole range of activities, information, knowledge sharing that we share with our subscribers. We have 3 more future workshops coming up. Details are available at trinityp3.com/business events. We've got one on a methodology for building innovation and a process for innovation. We've got another one on how to manage agency productivity and performance to drive value. And the final one for the year will be why measuring your carbon pollution is the first step to sustainability. Again, I'd like to thank Peter and Susan from the Agency Accelerators for participating today and for sharing their knowledge and information, and offering everyone those terrific opportunities. From my perspective, I think anything that helps agencies grow without pitching has to be positive. So thank you both very much, and thank you to everyone who was able to participate today. Have a great afternoon.